Hello, Hello. Sorry for the wait. I was trying to get the perfect color, the perfect color grading for the model, and I didn't realize I got carried away. Hello, thank you for joining me on this lovely night. I know it's a little later than usual, but I am so busy. But I'll always make time for you guys. So thank you for coming tonight, even though it's late. Off-Kai season. Well, we've got Off-Kai season, I've got end of month stuff to do, and also things to prepare for the anniversary. The upcoming Phase Connect anniversary, as well as Gen 2's anniversary, so a lot of stuff to do. Mile-long backlog. It's okay, I'm working on it. Slowly but surely. Slowly but surely. But today, I'll be reading to you some more 19th century short stories. There were some that we didn't get to... read last time, so I wanted to go through those. Let me find it. Past 2 AM, it's time for 19th century short stories. I don't know, how are you guys liking these stories? For me, I actually had to study a bunch of these in high school for like English literature, but so it feels kind of nostalgic, not gonna lie, going through these. Absolutely lovely. Yeah, I wanna read well. I'm gonna do some good reading for you. I can't tell I fall asleep before you can end one. I hated English. What? English was like my favorite subject in school, I think. Despite me being ESL, it was one of my favorite subjects. The teachers were all really nice to me, and the subject itself wasn't too difficult. Yeah. He may be an English nerd. Shut up. Shut up. An AP English. Yeah, I was in IB. I did IB when I was in high school, so I remember doing higher level English literature and language. That was my best subject. Which says a lot about me, considering that I am still with this ESL right now. But, yes. Let me choose which story to read today to you first. When you're finishing your English major. Okay, first of all, my mother would kill me. My mother would kill me if I switched to English major. She'd be like, and what are you gonna do after graduating exactly? No wonder you wasn't even project doing games. Those motherfuckers also literature nerds. Supposedly, yeah. It'd be so funny. It'd be so funny, huh? It would be so funny. Okay. Let's see. Now, one of these stories, I actually don't have the physical book for. So I need to look this up. But I wanted to read it to you because I remember it being funny. Let's see. Do it for the hee-hee-ha-has. Yeah, the hee-hee-ha-ha-hoo-hoos. What are the options for tonight? Okay, so, I actually have to refresh my memory by just flipping through this. What's this one? Okay, so I wanted to read to you today, one called The Woman's Rose by Olive Schreiner. The Adventure of the Speckled Band by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which we didn't get to read last time. And I'm trying to decide the last one. Let me read the synopsis for this one. I don't don't remember what happened in this one. Okay. Maybe. We'll just think of those two first and see how things go. I wanted to read maybe The Unexpected by 𝐃𝐨𝐬𝐚. Sir Conan Arthur Doyle, my beloved, so true. Okay, maybe we'll save that one for the last one. Let's read the... Which one do you guys want to read first? Do you want to read the Sherlock Holmes one? You want to read The Adventure of the Speckled Band? Or do we want a shorter but sweeter one? The Woman's Rose. You want to start with Sherlock? You know, I don't want to poll. I'm just gonna ask you guys. Okay. Party cat! Thank you, Himemiya. Thank you. That's okay. Harrowheim. Okay. The Adventure of the Speckled Band. Alright. This one is not that short, actually, and also I'm gonna be eating creme brulee while I have it. My family brought me some, and it's kind of melting already. I was too busy setting up She's Speckle on my band until I... Fancy. Ooh. Okay. Also, this is not a short... Despite what the title says, this one's not too short. So, strap yourselves in, get your tea, get your blankets, get comfortable, and let's begin. Let's begin, why don't we? Okay, I'll put myself, like, right here. Okay. The Adventure of the Speckled Band by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I'm sorry to wake you, Watson, whispered Holmes as he stood over me. But we have a visitor. There's a young woman in the sitting room who wants to see us. I'm sure it's important if she comes at this hour. Would you care to join me? My dear Holmes, I replied sleepily. I wouldn't miss it for the world. With my wife out of town, I was staying with Holmes for the evening. I always enjoyed helping my colleague in his investigations. It was fascinating to watch him gather his clues and use them to solve crimes. So I dressed quickly and joined him in the sitting room. We beheld a woman dressed in black, wearing a veil over her face. Good morning, madam, began my companion. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my friend and partner, Dr. Watson. How can we be of service to you? The woman lifted the veil from her face. We could see that she was pale and upset. I am very frightened, Mr. Holmes, she began. We will try our best to help you, Holmes said, trying to calm her. I see you traveled to London by train this morning, and that you rode to the train station in a horse-drawn wagon. How do you know that? She asked with a look of surprise on her face. The return ticket is tucked into your glove, Holmes explained. The left arm of your jacket is splashed with fresh mud. You'd have only gotten splashed that way by sitting on the left-hand side of an open wagon. You're correct, she replied. I have traveled all this way because I am going mad, Dr. Holmes. Mr. Holmes, I have no one to turn to. You must help me. Please, madam, tell us your problem. Holmes sat back in his chair, closed his eyes, and listened. My name is Helen Stoner. I live with my stepfather, Dr. Grimsby Roylott. He's the last member of a family. They were wealthy once, but over the years, the Roylotts lost their fortune. All that remains is the family home, Stoke Moran. Years ago, my stepfather lived in India and had a successful medical practice. That is where he met and married my mother. My twin sister Julia and I were only 2 at the time. It was in India that my stepfather's troubles began, she said. In a fit of anger, he got into a fight, killed someone, and spent many years in prison. When my stepfather was released, we moved back to England, where he returned to being a doctor. But he was a changed man by then. Shortly after our return, my mother passed away, leaving all her money to my stepfather. My sister and I would receive some money of our own, but only when we got married. With my mother gone, we left London and went to live in 𝐒𝐸𝐿. Miss Stoner grew more upset as she continued her story. My stepfather became even more troubled after that. His temper grew, and later he was arrested by the police for fighting. People became afraid of him. His only friends were a group of poor travelers who roamed the countryside and sometimes visited 𝐒𝐸𝐿. He would often let them camp in the woods near his house. His behavior grew stranger with every passing day, she continued. He loves wild animals, so he brought a wild cheetah and a baboon from India, letting them run wild in the woods around our home. My sister Julia and I became very unhappy. No servants would stay with us, so my sister and I took care of that big house by ourselves. It was very hard for us. Julia was 30 when she died, but she looked much older. Your sister is dead? Asked Holmes. Yes, our visitor replied. She died 2 years ago. And it is her death that I wish to speak to you about. Just before that sad event, Julia became engaged. My stepfather did not object. But just before the wedding, a terrible thing happened. When Holmes heard this, he opened his eyes and looked at our visitor. Do not leave out any details, he said. Miss Stoner continued. My stepfather, sister, and I lived in only one part of the old house. Julia's bedroom was between mine and my stepfather's, on the main floor. There are no doors connecting the rooms, but they all share the same hallway. The windows of the rooms look out onto the yard. That night 2 years ago, all 3 of us were in our rooms. While I was still awake, my sister came to me. She said she could smell my stepfather's cigar smoke and that it bothered her. So we sat and talked about her wedding until about 11 o'clock. That's when she got up to return to her room. As she was leaving, Julia asked me if I had heard a whistling sound at night. She told me she had heard such a sound for the last few nights, but she did not know where the noise had come from. I told her it might have been from the travelers who were camped nearby. I sleep more soundly than she, which may explain why I heard nothing. After that, we said goodnight. My sister returned to her room, and I heard her lock her door. Did you always lock your doors? Asked Holmes. Yes, answered Miss Stoner. We were afraid of my father's wild animals. Continue, said Holmes. Well, that night, she went on, I could not sleep and lay awake for hours. Suddenly, I heard Julia scream. I jumped from my bed and ran into the hallway. At that moment, I heard a quiet whistle, followed by a loud clanging sound. In the hallway, I watched as Julia's bedroom door opened. My dear sister slowly stepped from her room. I saw terror in her eyes. She could barely stand, and she moved about as if she was in pain. I ran to her just as she fell to the floor. As I held her in my arms, she cried out, "Oh, Helen! It was the band! The Speckled band!" She reached out with one hand and pointed to my stepfather's room. I called out to him and he quickly appeared. There was nothing we could do. That night, Julia died. "And are you sure," asked Holmes, "that you heard the whistle and clanging sound of metal?" "I think I did," Miss Stoner replied. "I am sure a doctor examined your sister's body. What did he find?" asked Holmes. He knew of her stepfather's temper, Mr. Holmes, and was very careful, but he did not find what killed Julia. It is still a mystery. We know that Julia had locked both the windows and the bedroom door. We searched the room carefully, but couldn't find any hidden entrances. My sister must have been alone when she met her end. Besides, she didn't have any marks on her. "What about the poison?" asked Holmes. "The doctor found no trace of it," replied the young woman. "Mr. Holmes, I believe she died of fright. And I think that when my sister said the word band, she meant a band of people, like the band of travelers. Well, that was 2 years ago. I have come to see you, Mr. Holmes, because a month ago, I became engaged also. Again, my stepfather did not object. My fiancé and I are to be married in the spring. But 2 days ago, she said with a fearful look on her face, work began on some walls of our house, and because of the repairs, I had to move into my sister's bedroom. As you can imagine, I did not feel comfortable. Then, last night, as I lay in bed, I suddenly heard a noise. It was the sound of a quiet whistle. I jumped out of bed and lighted a lamp. I didn't say anything, but I was so scared that I dressed and dared not go back to bed. In the morning, I left the house and came to London to beg for your help. It was the right thing to do, said my friend. But, Miss Stoner, you haven't told me everything about your stepfather. What do you mean? She asked. Holmes took the young woman's hand in his and held up her wrist. There were marks on her skin as if she had been grabbed by a very strong hand. Our visitor lowered her head and said, He is a troubled man, Mr. Holmes. My friend became silent. He stared into the fire that warmed our room. Don't have a moment to lose, he said finally. Miss Stoner, if we come to your house today, can we see the rooms without your stepfather knowing? Yes, he's visiting London today and won't be home, she replied. Good. And Watson and I will take the train and meet you there this afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Holmes, she said. I feel better already. Now, if that is all, I will see you this afternoon. Our visitor lowered the veil over her face and left. This is a strange and dangerous case, Holmes, I said. From everything we have heard, Miss Stoner's sister must have been alone when she was killed. But what was the whistling sound? And what did the dead woman's last words mean? It seems to me, my companion began, that it must have something to do with the band of travelers. Also, it is clear that Dr. Roylott would have lost money if his daughters married. Clearly, he would prefer his daughters not to be wed. And the metal clang? Perhaps it was the shutter of the window opening. But if that is the case, I said, then how did the travelers kill Miss Stoner? It doesn't quite make sense to me. I agree, Watson. And that is why we must visit Stoke Moran today. Just then, the door flew open and a huge man burst into our room. He looked at Holmes and me with a wild, angry expression on his face. Which of you is Holmes? He roared. I am, Holmes answered calmly. And who are you? I am Dr. Grimsby Roylott, he cried. I know my stepdaughter has been here, and I know you as Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the troublemaker. What did she say to you? Holmes laughed. Please close the door on your way out, Dr. Roylott. It is cold outside. I'll go when I'm finished with you. I am a powerful man, Mr. Holmes. You had better stay out of my business, or else... Roylott grabbed the metal poker from the fireplace. He held the piece of metal in his hands and bent it as if it were rubber. He threw the twisted metal into the fireplace, took one last look at us, and stormed out. Well, Watson, Holmes began. Our investigation has become much more interesting. I only hope the doctor's visit doesn't mean Miss Stoner is even more danger. I think we must take ourselves to Stoke Moran right away. Let us go to the train station. And Watson, I think it would be a good idea if you brought your gun. I wouldn't want Dr. Roylott to treat us the way he treated that metal poker. Okay, and that is chapter 1 for now. Oh my god, my creme brulee. Completely forgot about it. Okay, I'm gonna speedrun this. Watson really was like, so anyways, I started shooting. What do you guys think? Is it liquid now? It's kind of liquid. I gotta inhale this stuff. It's kind of liquefying. Oh god. I love these classic home stories. I know, right? Man, I miss reading all of the home stories and then getting into BBC Sherlock because of it. Because I read Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's books about Sherlock in the first place, And that's how I found out about Sherlock. I was like, oh my god, there's a TV show. So then I watched a TV show and I was like, wait, this is modern. Wait a second. Everything's modern now. He's abusing my mind words so much. What the fuck, you guys? I think that says more about you than it says about me. Yeah. Benadryl cucumber. I found out about Sherlock through Conan the anime. Oh my god. Don't tell me next some people are gonna be like, I found out about Sherlock Holmes through Ace Attorney. Or from Fate. Oh my god. You guys are sick. You guys are sick and twisted. Okay, I'm almost done inhaling this. Beryllium Candyland. Wait, is it attorney or attorney? I forgot. I don't remember. Sherlock Holmes. Let's say attorney. Attorney or attorney? Attorney. I keep forgetting. I'm sorry. Yes, I am English. I was an A-star English student, but yet at the same time, I don't know how to pronounce it. What's the second one? Attorney. Ace Attorney. Can read, can't speak. You guys have any suspicions on what's going on? I want to hear predictions. I want to hear predictions for who killed Helen Stoner. I think Hima did it. You're right. It was me. I was there. It was me. All me, bros. It was Dioda. The woman? Oh, you think it was her sister? The friends we made along the way. Maybe the women, maybe the doctor. Dr. Eggman. I can't speculate, I've read it before. Yeah, okay. Shall we continue then? Also, someone said Hima growing more and more British. Listen, this is a British story. I have to get into character. You know? I think the murder did. You might be onto something here. Clearly the carriage driver, yeah. It was Sakura! Oh my god! Holmes did it! Blimey! Maybe she did. Maybe she krilled herself. She unhemade. Okay, anyways. Let's continue, shall we? Chapter 2. Holmes and I took the train from London to the town of Leatherhead. From there, we took a horse-drawn carriage. But before we reached Stoke Moran, we saw Miss Stoner walking through a field toward the road. She had come from her troubled home to meet us. "I'm very happy you are here," she said to us after the carriage had gone. "Dr. Roylott is still in town and won't be back for a while." "We have had the mixed pleasure of meeting your stepfather," explained Holmes. "He paid us a visit after you had left." You mean he followed me?" she cried in fear. "Yes," answered Holmes. "So we must be very careful. And we must take a closer look at the rooms while we have a chance." Stoke Moran was an old grey stone mansion. One side of the board looked empty. The windows on that side were broken and covered with boards. The other side looked well kept. Smoke from the chimney told us that the family lived in this part of the house. "I see that these are the bedroom windows," said Holmes, pointing to a set of 3 windows. "The doctor's, then your sister's, and then yours?" "Yes," answered Miss Stoner. "And you can see where the workmen have been busy. But, Mr. Holmes, I don't think the work was necessary. I think it was a way to get me to sleep in my sister's bedroom." "Most interesting," said my companion. "Miss Stoner, please go into your sister's room while Watson and I stay out here. Make sure the window is locked. The young woman went inside. Holmes pulled a knife from his pocket and tried to open a window from the outside. When he failed, he used his magnifying glass and looked at the window frame and the hinges. No, he said finally. No one could get in through these windows. Watson, let us continue our search for clues inside. We joined Miss Stoner in her sister's room. Holmes sat down in a chair and silently studied everything around him. A rope hung from the ceiling to the bed. It was a rope you would pull to ring a bell. The bell was a signal for servants. The rope was so long that the end rested on the pillows. Where is the bell that is rung by this bell rope? He asked. In the housekeeper's room, replied Miss Stoner. It looks new, observed Holmes. Did your sister ask for it? It is only a couple of years old, but no, my sister did not ask for it. Why would you need such a nice bell rope here, I wonder? Said Holmes. He got up from the chair, pulled out his magnifying glass again, and got down on his hands and knees. He crawled back and forth over the floor, searching for clues. He then examined the walls in the same way. Also, hold on, I'm gonna turn off the aircon, it's getting cold. Okay. Hey, yo. Yeah, he's crawling up on his hands. He's on his hands and knees, huh? Holmes walked over to the bed and studied the bell rope. Finally, he grabbed it and pulled. Why, it doesn't work, he said. It is attached to a hook on the ceiling and doesn't ring a bell at all. This is most interesting. Also, the air vent on the ceiling is unusual. Holmes pointed to a small opening next to where the bell rope reached the ceiling. Has the air vent always been there, Miss Stoner? No, she answered. It was put in around the same time that the bell rope was put in. Next, we visited Dr. Roylott's bedroom. Holmes carefully examined the bed, a wooden chair, table, and a large metal safe. He noticed a small dish of milk sitting on the safe. Milk. Does Dr. Roylott keep a cat? He asked. No, Miss Stoner replied. My friend then bent down and studied the wooden chair. Yes, that's it then, he said as he stood up. Wait, what's this? Holmes pointed at a rope, looped over one post of the bed. Ah, Watson, it is a wicked world, especially when a smart man turns to crime. I have seen enough, Miss Stoner. Let us leave these rooms. Once outside, Holmes turned to the young woman. It is very important that you do everything I tell you. Your life may depend on it. When Dr. Roylott returns, you must stay in your sister's room. Then, tonight, when you hear your stepfather in his bedroom, you must open your window. Put a lamp where it can be seen from outside. Then quietly leave and return to your own room. Be sure to lock the door. Watson and I will be watching. When we see the lamp, we will enter your sister's bedroom through the window. We will spend the night there. Mr. Holmes, said Miss Stoner. I think you know what killed my sister. You must tell me. Did she die of fright? No, I don't believe so, answered Holmes. But until I know for sure, that is all I can tell you. I'm sorry. And now, Watson and I must leave before your stepfather returns. Do as I have instructed, and all will be well. My companion and I left Miss Stoner at Stoke Moran. There was an inn not far from the house where we were able to take a room. From there, we could look across the field and see the bedroom windows. We waited for night to fall. Watson, said Holmes as we sat looking out the house. I must warn you that we could be in danger tonight. Danger? But how? I asked. I didn't see anything this afternoon that suggested danger. You have clearly seen more than I have in these rooms. No, we have seen the same things, replied Holmes. But I have reasoned out what those things mean. First, there is the air vent, which I expected to find. Miss Stoner said that her sister could smell her stepfather's cigar smoke the night she died. That told me that there would be a vent connecting the two rooms. There's also the bell rope that doesn't ring a bell. Plus the interesting fact that the air vent and the bell rope were put in a room at the same time. What you may not have seen was an odd feature about the bed. It was clamped to the floor. That means you could not move the bed away from the bell rope and the air vent. Yes, Watson, we are dealing with a dreadful criminal. May have a night of horrors ahead of us. As the hours passed, the two of us watched the distant dark house. Finally, a light appeared in the window. It was our signal. We left the inn and made our way through the fields. Suddenly, as we were crossing the lawn, a dark figure darted from the bushes. The creature's arms and legs flew wildly as it ran off into the shadows. My word, I gasped. What was that? Holmes laughed quietly. This is a strange case indeed, Watson. That was the doctor's baboon. Now quickly, let us climb in the bedroom window before we see the cheetah as well. We crawled in through the window and closed it behind us. Once inside, Holmes whispered to me, "Do not make a sound, Watson. I will sit on the bed. You sit in that chair. Have your gun ready." Holmes had brought a cane with him, and he placed it on the bed. Sit in the dark. We do not want Dr. Roylott to see anything. He turned out the lamp, and we were in total darkness. The hours passed as we waited silently. The church bell echoed in the distance. A bird called in the night. Then we heard a sound that could only come from a large wild cat. It was the cheetah walking by the bedroom window. After a long wait, my eyes caught a dim flicker of light from the air vent above the bed. The light quickly disappeared and was followed by the odor of burning oil. Someone had lighted a lamp in the next room. Next came the sound of movement, followed by silence. A half hour passed before I heard something else. It was a quiet, hissing sound, like steam from a boiling kettle. Suddenly, Holmes jumped from the bed. He struck a match, grabbed his cane, and swung it at the bell rope. At the same time, I heard a low whistling sound. "Did you see it, Watson?" yelled Holmes. "Did you see it?" My companion was looking up at the air vent. Just then, a loud cry filled Stokemoran. It was a cry of pain and fear that turned into an angry shriek. As Holmes and I stared at each other, the cry faded away into silence. We ran into the hallway to the door of Dr. Roylott's room. Holmes knocked loudly. No one answered, so we opened the door and entered. The room was lit by the light of a lamp. We could see that the safe was open. Dr. Grimsby Roylott sat on a wooden chair that Holmes had studied earlier in the day. The doctor was in his dressing gown and slippers. The coiled rope lay across his lap. The doctor did not move. His head was turned towards the ceiling, and his eyes started upward. Wrapped tightly around his head was a strange yellow band. It was covered with brown speckles. "The band! The speckled band!" whispered Holmes. As I took a step forward, the band began to move. Then, the head and puffed-up collar of a snake rose up out of the doctor's hair. "It is a swamp adder!" cried Holmes. "The deadliest snake in India! The doctor's murder weapon has turned on him. He's been bitten." Holmes took the rope and put it across the snake's collar. He tightened it and carefully conveyed the snake into the safe. It is too late for us to do anything for him, but we must take Miss Stoner from this place and call the police. The next day, as Holmes and I returned to London by train, he explained the facts of the case to me. At first, Watson, I was also on the wrong track. I knew that Miss Stoner's sister had used the word band. I also knew of the travelers who were camping nearby, so I thought the solution to the mystery lay with the band of travelers. But when we inspected the rooms, I realized that no one could have entered the locked bedroom. I also took notes of the bell rope. The air became clear to me that the rope was a bridge between the bed and the air vent. Right away, I thought of a snake. If Dr. Roylott had a cheetah and a baboon, he might easily have a snake. As a doctor practiced in India, he would also know that the snake's poison could not be detected, and he would know that its bite would be invisible. When his stepdaughter Julia became engaged, Holmes explained, he did not want her to get the money. So, he put the bell rope in her room, and had the air vent installed. Once they were in place, he waited until his stepdaughter was asleep. I could tell from looking at the chair in his room that he stood on it to reach the air vent. He would place the snake in the air vent. The deadly creature would crawl through the vent, down the rope, and onto the victim's bed. At first, the snake did not attack Julia Stoner, but the doctor had trained it to return at the sound of a whistle. That is what she heard. Milk also helped lure the snake back to Roylott's room. He would then catch it with the rope and put it in the safe. The clanging sound that the sisters heard was that of the safe being closed. And so, last night, I listened for the faintest sound that a snake could make. When I heard the hissing, I lit a match and attacked it. The creature quickly slithered back to Dr. Roylott's room, but I hit it with my cane, making it angry. So when I returned to the doctor's bedroom, it attacked. Sherlock Holmes looked out the window at the English countryside. It was hard to imagine that last night's events had taken place in such a peaceful setting. The murderer is dead, he said, killed by his own strange murder weapon. And that is the adventure of the Speckled Band. What did you guys think? Insane outplays by Sherlock. Once again, Sherlock coming with the steel chair. Wonderful. What an adventure. A literary equivalent of a Rube Goldberg device. Yeah, I love these classic Holmes stories. They're so good. Saw it coming? Yeah. I think like the moment they mentioned India, when I first read, the moment they mentioned India, my thought was like an exotic animal as well, like either a snake or like a scorpion, a spider, something like that. Yeah, very unique murder weapon. What I'm curious about is how was the snake trained to attack her sister though? Like, the snake only attacked when it came back because it got hit by the stick. How did he train it to attack Julia? Or maybe Julia panicked and then it attacked her? Maybe something like that? Snakes be trained? Yeah, I mean, haven't you seen like those snake charmers? They go like, ooh. Snakes are a really common pet trained for assassination. That's so cool. That's so cool. Okay. Anyways. Yeah, she probably panicked when she she probably panicked when she saw it, and then the snake panicked as well. I heard snakes are just as scared of humans as we are of them, so yeah. Okay, so recap of the story. Basically, this woman, she went to Sherlock Holmes because she was scared that something terrible was going to happen. She describes how she lived with her stepfather, who's like, you know, basically Dr. Eggman, big scary man. And they live in their shared mansion called Stoke Moran. And 2 years ago, her sister had died in this mansion shortly after becoming engaged. And now it was her turn to get engaged. She started feeling the same kind of fear and paranoia. So she went to Sherlock to kind of like go like, hey, can you sort this out, please? I don't want to die. And she mentioned that she heard a whistling sound at night in her bedroom, and then heard a loud scream. But Julia says Julia died shortly after, saying it was the band, the Speckled Band. You couldn't have said the word snake. You couldn't have said snake. It would have been solved so much faster if you just said the one word snake. Yeah, and then they solve it. So apparently he'd been training a snake. Apparently this story, the Speckled Band, is widely regarded as one of the best Sherlock stories, and it's kind of like it's got a lot of drama. It's got a lot of like details, some red herrings, like the band of travelers outside. Yeah, who calls a snake a bat? Actually, I saw the speckled. Just say the fucking word snake, bro. Just say snake. It's also got like a kind of like, you know, super mysterious theme to it because of like the poisons and deadly animals. Like, it doesn't seem like a real murder case. It seems like it. Well, it's not a real murder case, obviously, but like, it seems like something from like a freaking fairy tale. And it's interesting how they use the one snake where apparently the venom is undetectable. Is that true? Is that an actual thing? Like the venom is undetectable in the system by like corners? I don't know. Maybe their technology just wasn't back. Like, yeah, maybe in those times it was undetectable. Yeah. Oh, it is the Victorian era. Yeah. Classic locked room mystery. You know, when like it seems like it's impossible, where there's like no way for there to be a murder, but somehow it still happens. I love locked room mysteries. They always make me rack my brain and try to figure out what kind of convoluted ways. They had no RTX 4090. Yeah. Let's see. They stimulate the noggin. I don't remember what much analysis I could have had on this story. I think it was just an interesting read for me. Agatha Christie. Yeah! Agatha Christie! And also, the Poirot. I forgot his name. How do you spell it? Poirot. Yeah. Agatha Christie's Poirot series. The Poirot books. I love, yeah. Oh, Hercules! That's his name, right? I love those series. I love those books. They're so good. Things like Murder on the Orient Express, A Haunt in Venice, Haunting in Venice, sorry, Death on the Nile, things like that. They're so good. Orient Express is such a classic. I know. I love these like detective mystery movies. They're great. Okay. Anyways, Evil Under the Sun, yeah. Murder by Death, Dead Man's Mirror. All of those are so good. Okay. Alright. That was the Speckled Band. Shall we do a few short stories, or do you guys want more Sherlock? Do you guys want more Sherlock? I think there are some other short Sherlock stories that I could read. I don't complain if you read. Maybe next time I can do like a full like we can do a full mystery novel read along. Okay, let's try the other one. Edgar Allan Poe. I did want to do some I did want to do one episode on poetry in particular. These are more like stories. These are more like, you know, prose. I have a few plans in mind for the series. Definitely want to do some poetry, Edgar Allan Poe. Castle Amontillado. Do some Lovecraft, yeah. Maybe some Stephen King. Although I don't know, those would be too long. I think as long as we take breaks with each chapter, we'll be alright. Poe. Yeah. Gothic literature, maybe some Japanese literature as well. Does your book have Scandal in Bohemia? No, it doesn't. But I have read that one. King writes some good short stories. Yeah, he did. Yeah, some classic horror. Be nice. Okay, let's continue with some other 19th century short stories before we get carried away. Before we get too carried away. Okay, let's do let's see. I kind of want to find a I want to find a funny one. How long is this one? Well, Exio, thank you! Anyway, will you ever cover the stories Limbus is based off of? Most of it is classic lit from what I know. I haven't gone that far in Limbus to, like, see the stories, but I'll take a look. If you guys can, like, give me a bunch of titles, I can look into it, yeah, definitely. God, I want to read I want to read this one Oscar Wilde one for you, but it's a play. Which might be a little harder to read. Let me see how long this thing is. Okay, no, it's way too long. It's way too long. But it's real fucking funny. It's called The Importance of Being Earnest. Yeah, it's got like Act 1. Maybe I'll do like a whole stream for it. I'll do a whole stream for it, or I might even invite some other people come read it with me. Yeah, that one's brilliant. It's real fucking funny. It's basically about this guy. Okay, this dude. He's been LARPing as a dude named Ernest. But then like his plan gets found out, and there's another person. There's another guy who wants to propose to. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it to you, but it's like this whole convoluted, jumbled story, and it's really fucking funny. Your voice is so warm, I almost crashed my car. I thought you told me not to make any loud noises so you wouldn't crash your car. Okay. Let's see. Okay. We'll let me look for some hee hee ha ha. How about, let's see. Okay. Let's do this next one. Tony Kytes the Arch-Deceiver by Thomas Hardy. some hee hee hoo hoo, and then we'll finish it off with a sentimental one. Okay? Is it Arch-Deceiver or Arch-Deceiver? Arch? Maybe? I don't know. Tom Hardy, yes, by Thomas Hardy. Arc? I can't tell. It's like one or the other. Okay. Let's see. I shall never forget Tony's face. It was a little round, firm, tight face, with a seam here and there left by the smallpox, but not enough to hurt his looks in a woman's eye, though he'd had it baddish when he was a boy. So very serious looking and unsmiling he was, that young man, that it really seemed as if he couldn't laugh at all without great pain to his conscience. He looked very hard at the small speck in your eye when talking to thee. And there was no more sign of a whisker or beard on Tony Kyte's face than on the palm of my hand. He used to sing the tailor's breeches with a religious manner, as if it were a hymn. Oh, the petticoats went off, and the breeches they went. I don't know what the tune is. Whatever. And all the rest of the scandalous stuff. He was quite the women's favorite, and in return for their liking, he loved them in shoals. But of course, in time, Tony got fixed down to one in particular, Millie Richards, a nice, light, small, tender little thing. And it was soon said that they were engaged to be married. One Saturday, he had been to the market to do business for his father, and was driving home the wagon in the afternoon. When he reached the foot of the hill, who should he see waiting for him at the top but 𝐒𝐿𝐼, a handsome girl, one of the young women he'd been very tender towards before he got engaged to Millie. As soon as Tony came up to her, she said, "My dear Tony, will you give me a lift home?" "That I will, darling," said Tony. "You don't suppose I could refuse thee?" She smiled a smile, and up she hopped, and on drove Tony. "Tony," she says in a sort of tender chide, "why did you desert me for that other one? And what is she better than I? I should have made thee a finer wife, and a more loving one too. Isn't girls that are so easily won at first that are the best? Think how long we've known each other. Ever since we were children almost. Now haven't we, Tony?" "Yes, that we have," says Tony, struck with the truth. "And you've never seen anything in me to complain of, have you, Tony? Now tell the truth to me." "I never have, upon my life," says Tony. "And can't you say I'm not pretty, Tony? Now look at me." He let his eyes light upon her for a long while. "I really can't," says he. "In fact, I never knew you were so pretty before." "Prettier than she?" What Tony could have said to that, nobody knows, for before he could speak, what should he see ahead, over the hedge past the turning, but a feather he knew well, the feather in Millie's hat. She to whom she had been thinking of putting the question as to giving out the bands that very week. The wedding bands, by the way, which is basically like an announcement in the paper, like going like, "Hey guys, we're getting married." "Unity," he says, as mild as he could. "Here's Millie coming. Now I shall catch it mightily if she sees thee riding here with me. And if you get down, she'll be turning the corner in a moment, and seeing thee in the road, she'll know we've been coming on together. Now, dearest Unity, will ye, to avoid all unpleasantness, which I know you can't bear any more than I, will you lay down in the back part of the wagon, and let me cover you over with the tarpaulin till Millie has passed? It will all be done in a minute. Do, and I'll think over what we've said, and perhaps I shall put a loving question to you after all, instead of to Millie. 'Tisn't true that 'tis all settled between her and me." Well, 𝐒𝐿𝐼 agreed and lay down at the back end of the wagon, and Tony covered her over so that the wagon seemed to be empty but for the loose tarpaulin, and then he drove on to meet Millie. "My dear Tony," cries Millie, looking up with a little pout at him as he came near. "How long you've been coming home! Just as if I didn't live at Upper Long Puddle at all. And I've come to meet you as you asked me to do, and to ride back with you and talk over our future home. Since you asked me, and I promised. I shouldn't have come else, Mr. Tony." "Aye, my dear, I did ask you. To be sure I did, now I think of it. But I had quite forgot it. To ride back with me, did you say, dear Millie?" "Well, of course. What can I do else? Surely you don't want me to walk? I've come all this way." "Oh, no. I was thinking you might be going on town to meet your mother. I saw her there, and she looked as if she might be expecting thee." "Oh, no, she's just home. She came across the fields and so got back before you." "Ah, I didn't know that," said Tony, and there was no help for it but to take her up beside him. They talked on very pleasantly, and looked at the trees and beasts and birds and insects, and at the ploughmen at work in the fields, till presently, who should they see looking out of the upper window of a house that stood beside the road they were following, but Hannah Jolliver, another young beauty of the place at the time, and the very first woman that Tony had fallen in love with, before Millie and before Unity. In fact, the one that he had almost arranged to marry instead of Millie. She was a much more dashing girl than Millie Richards, though he had not thought much of her of late. The house Hannah was looking from was her aunt's. "My dear Millie, my coming wife, as I may call thee," says Tony in his modest way, and not so loud that Unity could overhear. see a young woman looking out of window, who I think may accost me. The fact is, Millie, she had a notion that I was wishing to marry her, and since she's discovered I've promised another, and prettier than she, I'm rather afeard of her temper if she sees us together. Now, Millie, would you do me a favor? My coming wife, as I may say. Certainly, dearest Tony, says she. And would you creep under the tarpaulin just here in front of the wagon and hide there out of sight till we've passed the house? She hasn't seen us yet. You see, we ought to live in peace and good. Well, since it's almost Christmas, and to prevent angry passions rising, which we always should do. I don't mind, to oblige you, Tony, Millie said, and though she didn't care much about doing it, she crept under and crouched just down behind the seat, Unity being snug at the other end. So they drove on till they got near the roadside cottage. Hannah had soon seen him coming and waited at the window, looking down upon him. She tossed her head, a little disdainful, and smiled offhand. Well, aren't you going to be civil enough to ask me to ride home with you? She says, seeing that he was for driving past with a nod and a smile. Ah, to be sure. What was I thinking of? Said Tony in a flutter. But you seem as if you were staying at your aunt's? No, I am not, she said. Don't you see I have my bonnet and jacket on? I have only called to see her on my way home. How can you be so stupid, Tony? In that case, of course you must come along with me, says Tony, feeling a dim sort of sweat rising up inside his clothes. And he reined in the horse and waited till she'd come downstairs, and then helped her up beside him. He drove on again, his face as long as a face that was a round one by nature well could be. Hannah looked round sideways into his eyes. This is nice, isn't it, Tony? She says. I like riding with you. Tony looked back into her eyes. And I with you, he said after a while. In short, having considered her, he warmed up, and the more he looked at her, the more he liked her, till he couldn't for the life of him think why he had ever said a word about marriage to Millie or Unity while Hannah Jolliver was in question. So they sat a little closer and closer, their feet upon the footboard and their shoulders touching, and Tony thought over and over again about how handsome Hannah was. He spoke tenderer and tenderer and called her dear Hannah in a whisper at last. You've settled it with Millie by this time, I suppose, said she. No, not exactly. What? How low you talk, Tony. Yes, I've a kind of hoarseness. I said, not exactly. I suppose you mean to. Well, as to that, his eyes rested on her face and hers on his. He wondered how he could have been such a fool as to not follow up Hannah. My sweet Hannah! He burst out, taking her hand, not being really able to help it, and forgetting Millie and Unity and all the world besides. Settled it? I don't think I have. Hark! Says Hannah. What? Says Tony, letting go of her hand. Surely I heard a sort of little screaming squeak under that tar cloth. Why, you've been carrying corn, and there's mice in this wagon, I declare. She began to haul up the tails of her gown. Oh no, 'tis the axle, said Tony in an assuring way. It do go like that sometimes in dry weather. Perhaps it was. Well now, to be quite honest, dear Tony, do you like her better than me? Because although I've held off so independent, I'll own at last that I do like you, Tony. To tell the truth, I wouldn't say no if you asked me. You know what? Tony was so won over by this pretty offering mood of a girl who had been quite the reverse. Hannah had a backward way with her at times, if you can mind. That he just glanced behind and then whispered very soft. I haven't quite promised her, and I think I can get out of it. And ask you that question you speak of. Throw over Millie? To marry me? How delightful! Broke out Hannah, quite loud, clapping her hands. At this, there was a real squeak, an angry, spiteful squeak, and afterwards a long moan, as if something had broke its heart, and a movement of the wagon cloth. Something's there, said Hannah, starting up. It's nothing, really, says Tony in a soothing voice, and praying inwardly for a way out of this. I wouldn't tell thee at first because I wouldn't frighten thee. But Hannah, I've really a couple of ferrets in the bag under there for rabbiting, and they quarrel sometimes. I don't wish it knowed as to be called poaching. Well, they can't get out, bless you. You are quite safe. And what a fine day it is, isn't it, Hannah? For this time of year. Be you going to market next Saturday? How is your aunt now? And so on, says Tony, to keep her from talking any more about love in Millie's hearing. But he found his work cut out for him, and wondering how he should get out of this ticklish business, he looked about for a chance. Nearing home, he saw his father in a field not far off, holding up his hand as if he wished to speak to Tony. Would you mind taking the reins a moment, Hannah? He said, much relieved, while I go and find out what father wants. She consented, and away he hastened into the field, only too glad to get some breathing time. He found that his father was looking at him with rather a stern eye. Come, come, Tony, says old Mr. Kytes, as soon as his son was alongside him. This won't do, you know. What? Says Tony. Why, if you mean to marry Millie Richards, do it, and there's the end of it. But don't go about driving country with Jolliver's daughter and making a scandal. I won't have such things done. I only asked her, that is, she asked me, to ride home. She? Why now, if it had been Millie, it would have been quite proper, but you and Hannah Jolliver going about by yourselves. Millie's there too, father. Millie? Where? Under the tarpaulin. Yes, the truth is, father, I've got rather into a nunny watch, I'm afraid. Unity's cell is there too, yes, under the other end of the tarpaulin. All three are in that wagon, and what to do with him, I know no more than the dead. The best plan, as I'm thinking, is speak out loud and plain to one of them before the rest, and that will settle it. Not but what will cause them to kick up a bit of a myth for certain. Now, which would you marry, father, if you was in my place? Whichever of them did not ask to ride with thee. That was Millie, I'm bound to say, as she only mounted by my invitation. But Millie... Then stick to Millie, she's the best! Look at that! His father pointed towards the wagon. She can't hold that horse in. You shouldn't have left the reins in her hands. Run on and take the horse's head, or there'll be some accident to the maids! Tony's horse, in fact, in spite of Hannah's tugging at the reins, had started on his way at a brisk walking pace, being very anxious to get back to the stable, for he had a long day out. Without another word, Tony rushed away from his father to overtake the horse. Now, of all things that could have happened to wean him from Millie, there was nothing so powerful as his father's recommending her. No, it could not be Millie. Hannah must be the one, since he could not marry all three. This he thought while running after the wagon. But queer things were happening inside it. It was, of course, Millie who had screamed under the tarpaulin, being obliged to let off her bitter rage and shame in that way at what Tony was saying, and never daring to show, for very pride and dread of being laughed at, that she was in hiding. She became more and more restless, and in twisting herself about, what did she see but another woman's foot and white stocking close to her head? It quite frightened her, not knowing that Unity Salad was in the wagon likewise. But after the fright was over, she determined to get to the bottom of all this, and she crept and crept along the bed of the wagon under the cloth like a snake, when lo and behold, she came face to face with Unity. Well, if this isn't disgraceful, says Millie in a raging whisper to Unity. "'Tis," says Unity, "to see you hiding in a young man's wagon like this, and no great character belonging to either of ye." mind what you are saying, replied Millie, getting louder. I am engaged to be married to him, and haven't I a right to be here? What right should you, I should like to know? What has he been promising you? A pretty lot of nonsense, I expect. What Tony says to all other women is all mere wind, and no concern to me. Don't you be too sure, says Unity. He's going to have Hannah, and not you, nor me either. I could hear that. Now, at these strange voices sounding from under the cloth, Hannah was thunderstruck almost into a sound, and it was just at this time that the horse moved on. Hannah tugged away wildly, not knowing what she was doing, and as the quarrel rose louder and louder, Hannah got so horrified that she let go of the reins altogether. The horse went on at his own pace, and coming to the corner where we turned round to drop down the hill to lower Longpuddle, he turned too quick. The off wheels went up the bank, the wagon rose sideways till it was quite on edge upon the near axles, and out rolled the three maidens into the road in a heap. When Tony came up, frightened and breathless, he was relieved enough to see that neither of his darlings were hurt, beyond a few scratches from the brambles of the hedge. But he was rather alarmed when he heard how they were going on at one another. "Don't ye quarrel, my dears, don't ye?" says he, taking off his hat out of respect to them. And then he would have kissed them all around, as fair as square as a man could, but they were in too much of a taking to let him, and screeched and sobbed till they was quite spent. "Now, I'll speak quite honest, because I ought to," says Tony, as soon as he could get heard. "And this is the truth," says he. "I've asked Hannah to be mine, and she is willing, and we are going to put up the banns next..." Tony had not noticed that Hannah's father was coming up behind, nor had he noticed that Hannah's face was beginning to bleed. Sorry. Intrusive thought. Freudian slip. Nor had he noticed that Hannah's face was beginning to bleed from the scratch of a bramble. Hannah had seen her father and had run to him, crying worse than ever. "My daughter is not willing, sir," says Mr. Jolliver, hot and strong. "Be you willing, Hannah? I ask you to have spirit enough to refuse him. If your virtue is left to thee and you run no risk..." "She's as sound as a bell for me, that I'll swear," says Tony, flaring up. "And so's the others, come to that, though you may think it an unusual thing." "I have spirit, and I do refuse him," says Hannah, partly because her father's there, and partly too in a tantrum because of the discovery in the scratch on her face. "Little did I think when I was so soft with him just now that I was talking to such a false deceiver." "What, you won't have me, Hannah?" says Tony, his jaw hanging down like a dead man's. "Never! I would sooner marry nobody at all!" she gasped out, though with her heart in her throat, for she would not have refused Tony if he had asked her quietly and her father had not been there and her face had not been scratched by the bramble. And having said that, away she walked upon her father's arm, thinking and hoping he would ask her again. Tony didn't know what to say next. Millie was sobbing her heart out, but as his father had strongly recommended her, he couldn't feel inclined that way. So he turned to Unity. "Well, will you, Unity, dear, be mine?" he says. "Take her leavings? Not I," says Unity. "I'd scorn it." And away walks Unity Salad likewise, though she looked back when she'd gone some way to see if he was following her. So there at last were left Millie and Tony by themselves, she crying in watery streams, and Tony looking like a tree struck by lightning. "Well, Millie," he says at last, going up to her. "It do seem as if fate had ordained that it should be you and I, or nobody. And what must be, I suppose. Hey, Millie?" "If you like, Tony, you didn't really mean what you said to them?" "Not a word of it," clears Tony, bringing his fist down upon his palm. And then he kissed her and put the wagon to rights, and they mounted together, and their banns were put up the very next Sunday. I was not able to go to their wedding, but it was a rare party they had, by all accounts. Everybody in Longpuddle was there. Almost. You among the rest, I think. Mr. Flaxton. The speaker turned to the parish clerk. I was, said Mr. Flaxton. And that party was the cause of a very curious change in some other people's affair. I mean, in Steve Harcum's and his cousin James. Ah, the Harcums, said the stranger. How familiar that name is to me. What of them? The clerk cleared his throat and began. And that is the end of the story. It leads into the next one. It's from a series of short stories where it's basically these two dudes just gossiping about the community. But yeah, it leads on to the next story like that. Anyways, that was Tony Kytes the Arch-Deceiver. Literal harem protagonist. Just imagine being in Tony's position in the wagon with all three of them. Tony the Riz Lord. Let's see. What was the name of the whole series? Let me find it. I only have one of them in my book. I think it might be Thomas Hardy short stories. It might just be the Thomas Hardy short stories series. I'm not sure, but if you look it up, you should be able to find it pretty easily. Tony failed the last check. Yeah. Oh my god. Just imagine how much he must have been sweating so hard. Yeah, and back then, divorces were not a thing, right? A marriage in the Victorian times was true to the vows spoken upon the wedding day, and it was expected to, like, you know, till death do us part, right? So, if they were to be married and such a scandal were to come out, it would basically ruin your entire, it would ruin your family for generations to come. It was really funny. You should read the whole series. Yeah, it's just basically like two NPCs gossiping about it. It's funny. NG plus for other 3 ending with other girl in the harem, and what's the true end? Maybe he gets with Hannah's father instead. Oh my god, spill the thesis. Spill the thesis. Yeah, what a mess, man. What a fucking mess. But yeah, how did you guys like that one? That was a funny little story. It was a little chuckle. Yeah. He's so superficial with it as well. Like, you commit to one woman, and then another woman gets into your cart, and then you look at her for like a couple minutes. You're like, wait, I never knew you were so pretty. And then the other one gets into the truck, and then you go like, wait, I never knew you were so pretty. Very shallow. The true end, yeah. Well, honestly, I wonder if like poly relationships were a thing in secret back then. Cause my ideal ending would have just been to take all 3 of them and you know, have a foursome. Yeah. They always were a thing. Yeah, probably some like secret Victorian orgy thing. This is not even just a love triangle anymore. This is like a freaking. It's a triangle in the sense that he's in the middle and there's like 3 routes. Don't let them cart thoughts sway you, bros. It was funny. Hee haha, funny. But yeah. A love trapezoid. Back then, holding hands was cheating. Back then, if you saw a woman without her bonnet, it would be considered cheating. If you saw a woman without her bonnet and her scarf, that would be considered scandalous. Scandalous. Water. Okay. That harlot! Back then, science was a crime. Yeah, have you made any actual scientific or medical discoveries? That would be... Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, this is a nice short story. A little novella. What does Queen may think? I would ask her, but she's not here. Let's see. You know, someone made an OnlyFriends for Victorian ankle. What? Wait, is it that woman who like the history YouTube channel where she like analyzes Victorian fashion, right? I think I saw that video on my recommended, but I never watched it. Maybe I should watch it. It's funny. I don't be surprised if breathing was a crime back in the time. Yeah, don't worry about it. We may read you a bedtime story. She used to when I was very, very small. But then she ended up stopping because I would read them faster than she. So I would be the one ending up reading the bedtime stories to her. And then I just end up reading it, like continuing to read after she left my room. I was a nerd, okay? I was a nerd. I was a bit of a nerd. You showed her up? Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it. Let's see. What? What do you mean? What do you mean? He may nerd. He may be rolling around at the speed of sound, and now she's a VTuber. Who knows? You guys are saying I might have a career in teaching English if all goes to shit, if everything goes tits up and VTubing is no longer relevant in the future. I remember somebody asked me yesterday when I was really stressed. I was girl rotting in my tub, and I was like, I'm so tired. Ask me anything in my members post. And then when someone was like, where do you see yourself in a few years? Would you still be a VTuber, or would you have to work a 9-to-5 job alongside it? And I was like, I don't know, man. Maybe depends on how the scope of the industry is and of Face Connect. Because my parents, the Queen especially, would not let me... Well, they wouldn't let me let my degree go to waste. Unless for a very good reason. So... If... This is my warning to y'all. If VTubing doesn't blow up and become like the next mainstream thing, and you know, I don't make like $1 million, etc., then I'm gonna be forced to stop VTubing and go back to the 𝐒𝐶𝐬𝐚𝐥. I'm gonna be forced to become a normie again. So guys, come on, make sure to recommend VTubers to everybody you know. Lobby it, send it to your local politicians. Get them to get VTubers to the mainstream. We will stream Requiem 1,000 times. Not the normie ending. Oh god. Normies aren't that bad, says user Normie Enjoyer. I think you might be biased. I think there may be a little bit of a bias. Yeah, I wonder how the VTubing scene is gonna be in the future. No, I can't see a desk job. I would krill myself if I had to work a 9-to-5. That's why I have such respect for you guys that do it. And I want to respect your time and your commitment to watching streams even after such a long and stressful day. Okay. Anyways, let's move on to our last short story of the day, which is a nice little poem about it's a little fruity. A little, you know, we can have a little lesbianism as a treat. a little bit of Yuri. This is The Women's Rose by Olive Schreiner. I have an old brown carved box. The lid is broken and tied with a string. In it, I keep little squares of paper with hair inside and a little picture which hung over my brother's bed when we were children, and other things as small. I have in it a rose. Other women also have such boxes where they keep such trifles, but no one has my rose. When my eye is dim and my heart grows faint, and my faith in women flickers, and her present is an agony to me and her future a despair, the sense of that dead rose, withered for 12 years, comes back to me. I know there will be spring, as surely as the birds know it when they see above the snow 2 tiny, quivering spring leaves. Spring cannot fail us. There were other flowers in the box once, a bunch of white acacia flowers, gathered by the strong hand of a man as we passed down a village street on a sultry afternoon, when it had rained and the drops fell on us from the leaves of the acacia trees. The flowers were damp. They made mildew marks on the paper I folded them in. After many years, I threw them away. There was nothing left of them in the box now, but a faint, strong smell of dried acacia that recalls that sultry summer afternoon, but the rose is in the box still. It is many years ago now. I was a girl of 15, and I went to visit in a small up-country town. It was young in those days, and 2 days' journey from the nearest village. Population consisted mainly of men. A few were married and had their wives and children, and most were single. There was only one young girl there when I came. She was about 17, fair, and rather fully fleshed. She had large, dreamy blue eyes and wavy light hair, full, rather heavy lips, until she smiled. Then her face broke into dimples, and all her white teeth shone. The hotel keeper may have had a daughter, and the farmers in the outskirts had too, but we never saw them. She reigned alone. All the men worshipped her. She was the only woman they had to think of. They talked of her on the stoep, at the market, at the hotel. They watched for her at street corners. They hated the man she bowed to or walked with down the street. They brought flowers to the front door. They offered her their horses. They begged her to marry them when they dared. Partly, there was something noble and heroic in this devotion of men to the best women they knew. Partly, there was something natural in it, that these men, shut off from the world, should pour at the feet of one woman the worship that otherwise would have been given to 20. And partly, there was something mean in their envy of one another. If she had raised her little finger, I suppose, she might have married any one out of 20 of them. Then I came. I do not think I was prettier. I do not think I was so pretty as she was. I was certainly not as handsome. But I was vital, and I was new, and she was old. They all forsook her and followed me. They worshipped me. It was to my door that the flowers came. It was I who had 20 horses offered me, when I could only ride one. It was for me they waited at street corners. It was what I said and did that they talked of. Partly, I liked it. I had lived alone all my life. No one had ever told me I was beautiful and a woman. I believed them. I did not know it was simply a fashion, which one man has set and the rest followed unreasonably. I liked them to ask me to marry them, and to say no. I despised them. The mother heart had not swelled in me yet. I did not know all men were my children, as the large woman knows when her heart has grown. I was too small to be tender. I liked my power. I was like a child with a new whip, which it goes about cracking everywhere, not caring against what. I could not wind it up and put it away. Men were curious creatures who liked me. I could never tell why. Only one thing took from my pleasure. I could not bear that they had deserted her for me. I liked her great dreamy blue eyes. I liked her slow walk and drawl. When I saw her sitting among men, she seemed to me much too good to be among them. I would have given all their compliments if she would have once have smiled at me as she smiled at them, with all her face breaking into radiance, with her dimples and flashing teeth. But I knew it could never be. I felt sure she hated me. She wished I was dead, as she wished I had never come to the village. She did not know when we went out riding, and a man who had always ridden beside her came to ride beside me, I sent him away. At once, when a man thought to win my favor by ridiculing her slow drawl before me, I turned on him so fiercely that he never dared come before me again. I knew she knew that at the hotel, men had made a bet as to which was the prettier, she or I, and had asked each man who came in, and that the one who had staked on me won. I hated them for it, but I would not let her see that I cared about what she felt towards me. She and I never spoke to each other. If we met in the village street, we bowed and passed on. When we shook hands, we did so silently and did not look at each other. But I thought she felt my presence in the room, just as I felt hers. At last, the time for my going came. I was to leave the next day. Someone I knew gave a party in my honor, to which all the village was invited. It was midwinter. There was nothing in the gardens but a few dahlias and chrysanthemums, and I suppose that for 200 miles round there was not a rose to be bought for love or money. Only in the garden of a friend of mine, in a sunny corner between the oven and the brick wall, there was a rose tree growing which had on it one bud. It was white, and it had been promised to the fair-haired girl to wear at the party. The evening came. When I arrived and went to the waiting room to take off my mantle, I found the girl there already. She was dressed in pure white, with her white arms and shoulders showing, and her bright hair glittering in the candlelight, and a white rose fastened at her breast. She looked like a queen. I said, "Good evening," and turned away to the glass quickly to arrange my old black scarf across my old black dress. Then I felt a hand touch my hair. "Stand still," she said. I looked in the glass. She had taken the white rose from her breast and was fastening it in my hair. How nice dark hair is. It sets off flowers so. She stepped back and looked at me. Why, it looks much better there. I turned round. You are so beautiful to me, I said. Yes, she said with her slow colonial drawl. I'm so glad. We stood looking at each other. Then they came in and swept us away to dance. All the evening we did not come near to each other. Only once, as she passed, she smiled at me. Next morning I left the town. I never saw her again. Years afterwards, I heard she had married and gone to America. It may or may not be so, but the rose is in the box still. When my faith in women grows dim, and it seems that for want of love and magnanimity, she can play no part in any future heaven, then the sense of that small withered thing comes back. Spring cannot fail us. And that is The Women's Rose by Olive Schreiner. Kind of fruity, don't you think? A little fruity. Just slightly. Saddest Yuri ever. Yeah, this is the opposite of toxic Yuri. This is tragic Yuri. The tension was off the charts. I know. I just know that every time they passed each other in the town, they were both thinking the same thing. They're like, "Oh God, she's so pretty. Oh God, she's so pretty." Yeah. So there's the themes of, appearance, jealousy, femininity, women versus men. I guess like society and culture at the time as well. Angst, yeah. Could you add the links to the text in the description, please? I will update the links and I will find PDFs for you guys to read. God, I wish she were me versus God, I wish she were me. They really should have just kissed. They really should have just fucking kissed. I really, really like that last line. That last line has got to be one of my favorite lines in all literature. It just reminds you of like the good in life, and in a world where it was, especially after the story we just read, where it was like women versus women versus women, fighting over a man's love. This story, on the other hand, it talks about the friendship between, quote-unquote friendship, by the way. And how, like, you know, companionship and the bond between women. Yeah, quote-unquote friendship. Yeah. It's like, and she kept the rose in her box for, like, decades now. Yeah, subverting societal expectations. Wow. That is a phrase you have to use in your essays to get points. Girls love. But yeah, that rose, I don't know how it could be preserved for that long without like withering, like falling apart, right? But whenever she has doubts about her faith in women, the smell of the rose reminds her that there will be spring. There is hope. That not all women are you know, not all women. Ivy word salad, yep. History will say that they were friends. Do you not see the way she described the other women? Wait, let me roll back to it. Dreamy blue eyes, wavy light hair, and full, rather heavy lips. Like, I know what you are. I know what you are. Yeah, it goes hard, man. Oh yeah, she wants her. She wants her for real, for real. And a gat like no other. Yeah. I like how the rose was described as like specifically being white as well. Compared to the nightingale and the rose, which we had read before, which had a red rose, it was a white rose that grew into a red rose, and red was supposed to symbolize, like, you know, passion and love and everything. I feel like here the white color symbolizes purity instead. The gesture of that girl, when she took the flower that was supposed to be promised to the most beautiful woman and put it in the other woman's hair, that was a very pure experience, a very, you know, a very pure interaction. Yeah, pure dabu dabu. And the line, you know, like, spring cannot fail us. That line is just full of so much hope and a better future, because like spring is a sign of renewal, turning over a new leaf, a sign of hope. And I think definitely the main part of the story is like, it shows how society wants to make women compete with each other based on shallow things like appearance, because that was all the men really cared about. But women don't usually feel like, no matter how right, like, how do I say this? No matter how competitive it can get, not all women feel themselves as rivals. They can be companions, friends, and this, you know, or more than friends, you know. Yeah, pure power, power. Yeah, I really like this. I really like this story. Pure dabu. So true, bestie. But yeah, that was the third story of today. I remember me and my best friend in high school at the time, actually, we wrote when we were trying to study for the English exam, right? We wrote Yuri fanfic of these two people. we wrote Yuri fanfic based on this short story. I don't think we ever finished it, but I can try pull it up. Hey, it's a good way of studying for it, okay? Let's see. Where Where are my things? School stories, maybe? Let me see. If it works, it works. Yeah. Was it book fanfics? No. What is this? What is this, man? What score did you get for it? Don't worry about it, man. Oh god, my archive. What is this? DMMD Uta Pre AU. Why did I write this? I'm not gonna look at it. Fuck this. Okay, let me keep looking. Share, please. No! No! No, Siri, stop it. Okay, time to read that next. Oh god, I don't know if I can find it. I'm trying to look for it so bad. Why is this all IDV shit? Oh my god. I'm sorry, please give me a second. Please give me a bit. I need to look for this shit. Is it this? No, it's not this. IDV is kind of Victorian coded. It really is. I'm so sad because when I was in school, we had a school email and the school Google Drive, and I actually don't have most of it. I don't have most of my school files from my drive because I forgot to sync it before they deleted our accounts. So the ones I have right now are only the ones that are still preserved. Oh god, what is this? Did you save your fanfics on the school drive? Not all of them. Probably some cringe stuff. When was this? Oh my god, December 2013? Good god. Want you just transfer the files manually? I forgot to. I may be stupid. Yeah. It wasn't that long ago, was it? I mean, it's not about it being long ago, it's just that the school like deletes our accounts and we did not know. Oh, do you wanna hear a little do you wanna hear a little short story that I wrote when I was I think 13? Yeah? Oh god, okay. Alright. Whenever the boy passed the wisteria shrub near the park, he would always see a girl with wispy blonde hair and a flower crown, sitting down in the grass next to the bush and playing with the flowers intently. He would always walk towards her, with the intent to make friends, as she seemed lonely in the park all by herself, only to have his shyness overcome him and force him to hurry away. Strangely enough, he would only ever see her when the skies would open up and let out their sorrows like a flooding gate, sitting under the shelter of a weeping willow tree, though still fiddling with the blossoms. He wonders at those times if she's cold. Today was no exception. The boy, having watched her from afar for quite so many seasons now, decided earlier that today was going to be his lucky chance, and set towards her, holding an umbrella above his head and gripping another tightly in his hand. As soon as he reaches her, The crunching of his footsteps on the crisp grass alerts the girl of his presence, and she looks up at him curiously.
Who are you?
The boy stammers, clutching the umbrella in his free hand even tighter. I'm Robin. I thought you were lonely, so I came to play with you. Thrusting the extra umbrella forward to the girl, the boy squeezes his eyes shut in embarrassment, but opens them yet in surprise as he hears the girl laugh for the first time. It reminds him vaguely of the soft tinkling of bells around his cat's collar, or the jingling of the bell in the shop that tells you if you have a visitor.
Thanks. I'm Angel.
She responds in between childish giggles, and sits back to make room for Robin underneath the willow tree. Time passed, and they have been meeting at the wisteria bush for the 4th day in a row. And the boy is pleasantly surprised when the girl hands him a ringlet of flowers on his own. It's a flower crown, she explains. It makes you the king of all nature. The boy laughs and puts it on, admiring how it looks atop his head.
We match now.
Angel laughs, that small tinkling laugh again. And in between his own chuckles, the boy doesn't notice the pearly tears beating in the corners of her gray eyes. At last, after countless days of rain, the impending balmy sun had descended upon Robin's frivolous town yet again, and it was confusion, surprise, and disappointment that had met the little boy, instead of the girl, as he came to a halt in front of where his friend had been. Maybe she's just hiding to scare you as a prank, his inner voice tells him, soothing as ever. He wants to believe it. He really does. But after looking left, right, up and down, behind and over shrubs and trees, not a single trace of the girl was left near the tree. Sinking to a cross-legged pose near the willow tree where he had first met Angel, the boy wonders where on earth could she be?
Mama?
Robin's mother looks up. Why did I write this? Robin's mother looks up. A quite elegantly attractive lady in her early 30s with a warm smile that has kept the cozy fire in his heart aflame his entire life. Why did I have to describe the mother like that? My god. The age of 30 isn't... Okay, anyways. Yes, sweetie? She's sweeping the tables with a small little duster, picking up dainty silverware and delicate china wherever she saw fit to dust. The boy glances at her from his spot on his armchair, a fond gaze crossing his expression.
Have you seen Angel, a new friend?
A loud crashing noise meets his ears. Robin jolts and stares at his mother with a concerned and bewildered gaze. How do you... Robin's mother manages to stutter out, painful tears rolling down her face like the last trickle of water from a stream claimed from the draught of sorrow. What? Robin doesn't understand.
How do I know her?
He innocently asks, a smile crossing his face.
We met at the park a few weeks ago when it was raining. She offered me a wisteria flower crown she made herself. She's so talented when it comes to that kind of craft. And we played for ages.
His mother is still weeping into her hands, pulling the boy closer to her now and rubbing his back repeatedly. Oh, Robin, my little boy. Robin still doesn't understand. Drawing away, Robin's mother strokes his face tenderly, looking straight at him with pain in her eyes. Taking a shaky, deep breath and staring into his eyes with so many memories lost from his disorder, she opens her lips. Angela passed away a month ago in a car accident on a rainy day. And I wrote an alternate ending. Do you wanna read it? Do you wanna read the alternate ending? The good route. The good ending. Trust, okay? Taking a shaky, deep breath and staring into his eyes, with so many memories lost from his disorder, she opens her lips. Angela is a meme goddess. Only true meme can see her. I'm so proud. You've reached meme level 2.0 clearance. Mama can die ultra meme. Her baby boy is memeing up. Robin gasps and hangs 1,000 gold chains around his swaggerly neck. That'd be dope. I mean, like, so dope. Hella dope. Can I drink booze now? His mom cackles and spits out chicken feathers. Lol, you naughty boy. Robin screams, flinging his swaggerly gold chains away and sits down on the floor. Mom, will my butt be meme if I poke it with the bone of a virgin? Gurgling, Robin's mother takes out an axe and hacks him into pieces. Maybe, but now you'll never know. Listen, I was like 12, okay, when I wrote this. Who at high school? It wasn't even high school you. It was like middle school even. This puts Shakespeare to shame. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Straight up Kino. Cute female jag. Of course you would say that. So that was one of the short stories I wrote for a school magazine or something. Oh god. Yeah, that's I think that should be it. You should read more of your old work. It's so fun. Oh god, I don't know if I can. Okay, let me see. I have a fic called Who is 𝐃𝐽 𝐷𝐷? There's a fic titled Who is 𝐃𝐽 𝐷𝐷? There's another one called I don't know what I want to do, but I sure as hell know it's not studying. Let's open this. What's this? Oh, it's a blank document. Great. Cool. Amazing. Oh god. What is this? Who is 𝐃𝐽 𝐷𝐷? Oh my god, it's 𝐃𝐽 𝐷𝐿. I'm gonna kill myself. I'm not reading that shit. I mean, yaoi. Everything in here is probably yaoi. I won't lie. There's one called Shoot Me Daddy. Oh my god, wait, no, I remember this. No. It was the Mystic Messenger Mafia AU. Ugh. I can't do this. I can't do this. It's not happening. Read it. No, it's not happening. It's not happening. Maybe like... Okay, let's say... 75k celebration stream. I will read my old fanfics. I will read my old fanfics for 75k. I was gonna say 100k, but I remembered I was already doing Homestuck for that. Yeah. I'm gonna need a drink for that. I'm gonna need more than just a drink. I'm gonna need a pistol as well. Okay. But anyways, that was it for me for today. I need to get back to work. I'm so tired. I've barely slept, but... all for the grind, am I right? All for the grind. Again, I will put the titles of the stories that we read today in the not comments, in the description. So in case you want to read it yourself, you can look it up. And let's see if anyone else is streaming right now. Oh, Jerry is streaming. Iko-chan and Jerry-chan and Aiwi-chan. Okay, I'm gonna send you guys to Jerry. Respite, thank you for the month, Memby! You really nailed the ambience for these. Thank you, Hime. I'm glad you liked it. I'm glad you liked it. Shall we have a vote? in my community poll to see what stories we should read for the next book club. We can have gothic poetry. We can have detective stories. We can have classic horror. Stuff like that. Democracy. Democracy. Okay. I'm gonna send to Laura. Okay.
Yes, the human tax, thank you!
You want me to play Fatamoru? You want me to read through Fatamoru? Really? I don't think that's classic literature, my brothers. Okay. Yes, God, this is gonna take me forever though. It's gonna take forever. I'll think about it. Okay. Anyways, that is it for me for today. I'll put out my schedule. Probably either tonight or tomorrow. This is gonna be probably my last regular schedule until Off-Kai, because it's the weekend of Off-Kai, and then after Off-Kai, I'm gonna be they're gonna lock me away for a week. They're gonna lock me up and throw away the key and make sure I never get out of the psych ward ever again. Just kidding. It's for my voice therapy. Sparse week. No, it will be no week at all because I'm not supposed to be using my voice during that week. What? After that, things will go as usual. I'll be back on... So it's the week of the 3rd to the 9th. I will be back on the 10th. I'll be back on the 10th. And yeah. The one before Off-Kai? No, it's gonna be a usual week. I think maybe just have to take 1 or 2 days off, but in case some of you guys aren't going to Off-Kai, because I know not everyone's going, I'm still gonna be streaming probably at my usual times during Off-Kai, so if, you know, in case you guys don't have anything to do, because I don't know how many people are gonna be streaming during Off-Kai. I don't wanna leave you guys alone. And I do have a karaoke appearance at the room, apparently. I still have to double check with management if I can stream that or not to you guys. Most likely, if I can't stream it on public, then it will be an unlisted link. And I'll just put the unlisted link like on my Twitter or something, or on my YouTube community tab, and you guys can access the stream from there. It was unlisted last time. It was an unlisted stream last time. This time I'm gonna ask if I can stream it like a normal karaoke stream. But yeah. Anyways, I'll see you guys then. I'll see you guys next week. We're gonna be what are my plans for the week? Let me open my schizo board. Okay. Next week, we're gonna be doing some games that I have been meaning to play, like that one Nihongo Jozu game, Shashingo. We have pools that I was meant to play last week, but I got stun locked out of I got locked out of it because I didn't have enough time. And so 5 Love Corps. I will try not to schedule any Love Corps for that week because, you know, it is a little overwhelming, isn't it? But if I do stream Love Corp, it will be Guerrilla at night, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., something like that. I don't know, fucking late. Spam more. Guys, I know I'm like the lobotomy corporation streamer right now, but I have other stuff to do. It means it's your time. Yeah, I'm sure you guys need to catch up on the Love Corp, the Love Corp VODs anyways. The girl dinner collab might be next week. I'm still confirming with Lumi and Urka, but we'll try to have it before Off-Kai, so you guys can see that. Okay. Anyways, that is it from me for now. And I will see you next week.
Thank you for coming to the book club this time, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye. Bye bye. Ochu Hime. Otsu Hime-tan.
Okay, I'll back the grind.